On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're exploring 3 beautiful homes where color takes center stage. First, we head to Richmond, Virginia, where a Colonial Revival gem bursts with personality, from eye-catching hot pink curtains to an apple green foyer that sets the tone for the entire house. Next, we're off to New York City to explore a cleverly designed 600 square foot apartment in the West Village with patterned wallpaper, travel-inspired artwork, and colorful touches that cleverly define each space. Finally, we travel to Denver to tour a lively English Tudor-style home where every room is layered with rich hues and one-of-a-kind pieces that reflect a love of design. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Dana. Welcome to my house in Virginia. Come on in. Can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi, I'm Dana Gibson, and I'm a product designer and an artist. Welcome to my home in Richmond, Virginia. Last night, my husband and I were trying to remember how long we'd been here, and it's been 7 years. The house is a Colonial Revivalist house built in 1912. The architect was D. Wiley Anderson, and he's done a number of houses around the city. It was built by a prominent businessman. He actually was in the 10 ceiling business, and there are a few rooms that have his 10 ceilings. The house has really good bones, but some things had fallen apart, like the front portico was completely caved in. The chimneys, there are 7 chimneys, they all needed to be rebuilt, and the roof was the original slate roof that wasn't gonna make it another 100 years. So when we first moved in, we didn't do a lot of gutting. I like to listen to the bones of a house and work with what is there. So we painted everything white our first 2 years, and then we started adding in layers of color and pattern, wallpaper, that sort of thing. When we bought this house, one of its charms or appeal to us was the original details, like pocket doors and original wood floors. There's an Egyptian tile floor in the sunroom. So we didn't want to, gut it. We wanted to use what was there and make it and bring it up for today. This is our left living room, and it's covered in this wallpaper I call Mum. I wanted a leafy trellis, and it's I think really a nice backdrop to some of the other elements in the room, like the green curtains, and especially this fireplace. I love all the fireplaces in this house, but this tile is original to the house, and it really it sort of sparked a lot of other choices that I made throughout the house, bringing in the greenery of the outside in and sort of accenting a lot of the rooms with green. It all came from this fireplace. Above the fireplace is one of my favorite lithographs it's a lithograph by Jane Freelicker, and my mother had it, and she gave it to me when she moved, and I love it. It's just, the colors are absolutely gorgeous, and all the colors are just me. The blue, the the red and the green, I just love that. The sofa was, I think it's gorgeous. I believe it's a Lexington sofa, and it's in this oyster white that picks up the other oyster white in the wallpaper. These chairs I had made, I had covered in a new fabric pattern called Camilla, and then this one, Lotus, I thought looked great together. It's not a great match, but I love mixing different greens and different patterns and different scales. So this again was one of my mother's finds. I think she found it in Maine, but it's a folk art goose or swan that I think is particularly classic and often can be found in antique stores coastally, and especially Maine. But what's kind of funny about it is when my dad was handing it over to me for me to have it, he closed the card door on it and he smashed the neck, which is so typical of him, but I could probably fix it, but that reminds me of my dad. Now we are in the sun porch, which is a glass-covered room that, again, is original to the house. One thing that's wonderful about this room, not only the beautiful pane glasses, but the floor is Egyptian cement tile that actually was on the front porch of the house as well. So maybe that owner, Mr. Burton, had business doing Egyptian tiles too, but you can still buy this, certainly reclaimed Egyptian tile or something similar, which was what we had to use for the front porch because this was not available to us, especially not in there's the number of tiles that we needed for the front porch. So in this room, it's nice to like bring this round table in the middle and have supper out here in the winter. And this is one of my first big purchases. It's a hunt table. So this was used during a hunt, and because the riders were on horses, the food was served from high tables like this, and they wouldn't have to lean down too far to get something to eat. So I liked the history of this. This painting is by a Richmond artist named Amy Juliard. I saw it and thought it was really vivid and wonderful, and so it was one of the first purchases I made for this house. Another thing in this room is I've got some furniture. I used to design furniture for a company, the MT company, and this is covered in a fabric. It's a classic ticking fabric that I came up with. It's very simple. But what's wonderful is we've been in this house for 7 years, and there's no fading. So that's incredible. It's not a sunbrella. It's just really good dyes in the fabric. So my husband is responsible for keeping the plants alive. He didn't trust me, so he took over completely. Takes him probably about an hour to water everything, but it's sort of his hobby. One thing I liked about what I've done to this room, I really like these stag plaques that I just found. It was at High Point. There's an antique dealer and he does them, but I like that contrast of you've got the pretty blue and white and the leafy greens, but then you've got, a dark, mean-looking stag. So I love juxtaposition like that. One choice that I made when we started painting the house white, some of the ceilings are painted in a light sky blue, like this one here. It's done often in Southern homes, and it's called haint or something, but you have to find a really nice sky blue, very soft. And I did it in one of the living rooms in the front of the house, in this room, and in this porch that I'll show you later. This is called Cliveden, and it's a lamp that's been very popular for me. And it comes in 4 colors, but the green, I think, is stunning. And it just mimics Gracie wallpaper, that Chinese garden feel. So I love mixing in florals with stripes and small scale ditzy prints, and I think having fun with pattern is really a great way to make your house become dynamic. So I was looking for high ceilings, and I walked into this house, and it definitely has the high ceilings. They're 11 feet. I really didn't need that much, but I had been in a 1950s house and the ceilings were 8 feet, and I tried to get my husband to carve out a sunken living room, but he wouldn't do it. So we bought this house, fell in love with it, walking up the stairway in the front of the house. And it needed a lot of work, but my husband is a contractor, so it's right in our wheelhouse. Now we're going across the house into our front hall, which was where I first fell in love with this house. I remember walking up these stairs and looking around down at this floor plan, and I went, wow, if I could have this house, I'd be a very lucky lady. And thankfully, since I have a contractor husband, I was able to get that make that dream come true. All of the lighting is original to the house as well. This is a really beautiful chandelier, and there are a lot of other chandeliers in the house. This was something I purchased for the house, a Scandinavian bench. I love Scandinavian furniture. I don't know why, I really just respond to it. My first purchase of a chair was a Scandinavian chair, and I'll talk about that, or it looks like a Scandinavian chair. So this one bought off first dibs, and it was I think it's lovely. I am in the process of adding to this gallery wall. It's not finished. I just put my favorite pieces up there. And one was this Hunt Slonim art piece, which his work is so gestural. I have no regrets about buying it. I think it's just charming. And this is some other pieces by artists I like. My mother had this in her house, this sort of cameo ceramic plate, which I think is gorgeous. When we first moved in, I really didn't know what to do with this space. It's not big enough for a table in the center, which I was hoping for. I did have a decorator help me with curtains and bedding and some choices for furniture. So one of the things she said to me, her name is Sarah Hillary, she said, well, you've got so many antiques, why don't you mix it in with some more modern pieces? And I thought that piece of advice was golden. It was really smart because I think that juxtaposition again with old and new makes a house come to life. This piece is by Oomph, and then the Murano mirror is something my husband and I purchased when we were traveling abroad. So just mixing the more modern line with, it's certainly traditional, but it's modern, with the old mirror is one thing that makes this space sort of come alive. When we bought the house, the floors were, rough, so we needed to redo them. But again, it's such an old house that they're very thin. So I have always loved white painted floors, and they brighten up a house. I wish I could paint all the floors in this house in this white floor paint, but it's actually pretty costly. So I stuck just to the front room, and the diamond pattern sort of mimics marble floors. It's just an old world kind of pattern that's not gonna be too demanding on the eyes. It kind of just fades away. It just hints at that old world feel that I wanted the front room to have. I'm very casual, but I like drama, and I love color and pattern, and so you'll see a lot of different patterns working together. It's not overtly colorful. It is colorful, I think, in a strategic way. I love walking through the rooms and love the spaciousness of it. I don't have a lot of knickknacks, even though I'm in the knickknack industry. I pulled in a few for this, for Homeworthy, but I like an open floor plan. I like loft living. So in a way, this house has all that airiness that I would like if I lived in a loft in New York City. And I think that's what I like the most, is just the airiness of it. Now I'm walking into the living room we use most often. I don't know, everybody seems to gravitate toward this room. One thing that most people comment on is the paint curtains, which Sarah Hillary helped me with. I sent her on a goose chase to find the perfect pink. But what's interesting, it's a natural silk, it's fuchsia color. But I said I liked the reverse side of it, not the side that was supposed to be front and center. I think it had more blues in it, so it wasn't as corally. So these curtains were beautifully done. So that's my favorite part of what Sarah Hillary helped me with. So these sofas were in our other house, and they're very low. The profile's very low, and I didn't know if they'd work, but I think having the high ceilings and this very salon-like feel to the two sofas, it's working for me. The ceiling is painted in the light sky blue, and I haven't touched the paint in here. We started, it's all white by Farrow and Ball. There's no mud or color to it, really. It's just white, a very sanitary white, which I love for this room. It gets great light. There's some art in this room that I am particularly proud of and happy to have in my possession. The one portrait is by my great-grandfather, and I was given it when I was in my teens. And it's been in every house that I've had. Last house, we had it in the kitchen, and she sat and looked over us just beautifully. It did inspire the paint curtains, and I think really pulls this room together. Another painting by him is this. It's called Camden. Charles Dana Gibson used to spend a lot of time up in the Northeast in Maine and near Dark Harbor. So that's, and Camden is one of the towns up there that I think or the Camden Hills. Here is a lot of work for my mom, except for this. This is, I think every room needs a little humor and something to take the formality down, not make it so precious. And this is like an odalisque, a woman who's not very well covered, but it also is sort of a collage with little mirrors, and the colors are absolutely stunning. I love that orange and the blue and the pink, but I also love the colors of my mother's paintings as well. So the desk is one I bought from our local fabulous antique dealer named Kim Faison, and she sources everything from Europe. But I was joking with her, and I said I was going to paint the inside of it white, and she almost died, I think, because you don't mess with an antique like that. So, and I was just kidding her. But it is beautiful. I love, like I said, Swedish furniture. And I love the pattern. I love folk art. And anytime I find something like this, I would snatch it up. And I think it's a perfect part of this room. This is crazy. This piece I found at an antique store for $50, and it was gray, and then someone had painted the fabric, which a lot of people do in the design world. They paint the fabric just because they don't want to pay the money to reupholster, so they painted it white. And I decided one day just to paint, this is my tulip pattern in chartreuse, and I think it came out beautifully. It's not very comfortable, but for an occasional chair, it's perfect. So I do that a lot. If I have something that's not important, it's not like a fine piece like this. You get the vintage feel of the original, but you've sassed it up, you've made it modern, and the term used to be upcycled it, which I think is a horrible term. But and then I added some gilding, so that cost me about $50 and a few hours of labor. Now, another piece, I think if I am a collector of anything, I'm a collector of chairs. I'm so drawn to chairs for some reason, and I probably have way too many. But this is one of, I was telling you about when I started my Swedish fetish. I found this at he's an upholsterer, and he had this in his basement, and it wasn't covered or anything. And I loved the lines of it, and I probably did a little gilding on it, and then I covered it in this one of my first patterns called multi-eye-cat. And I've taken it from house to house, and it really works as that punch of color. These are sconces. I call them the Margot sconce, and I have them in a few different rooms, and I love them. They're very subdued, and they can go in a lot of different situations. So it's been a good product for me. This table was in my parents' house, and it was made by a sculptor that my mom knew named Tom Chenoweth, and I think they had him make it. It's so simple. I have always loved it because it was always in their living room, but I did want it to have a little more bling, so it was sort of a cherry red or really burnt red, blood red, and I gilded it using gold leaf, so pretty easy to do. You just put some sticky glue on it, and then it can really brighten up old pieces of furniture. Now we are in what I call the TV room, which is our den, and we spend a lot of time in here. One thing I've always had my husband make whenever we move into a new house, because there never seems to be bookshelves. So it took about 5 years for him to get the bookshelves up. So he built these, and I just love books books warm up a room, and the knickknacks that we have on them are so special. So that just sort of finished the room for me. This is a sofa that I found, or I love it. It's by Row Furniture. I think it's called the Madeline sofa, but it's so super comfortable. And I went on Etsy to find a ottoman. I fell in love with these sofas from England, but it's hard to send a sofa from England to America. So I did find somebody who made these ottomans with the same sorts of English legs, and it's got a very classic ticking on it. Something interesting in this room here, this is a chair that I also inherited from my mother years and years ago, and at one point I had to cover it. And my sister, who was at one point, she's an artist now, but she was a decorator back then, she said, I had this idea, I wanted this really flashy big pattern to go on it, and she goes, no, we need a stripe. We need something simple, something that will be there for you forever. And so she convinced me, and I didn't like it for about 10 years, but I love it now, obviously, because it goes so well with this room. And I think she was, as a decorator, perfectly right. I mean, absolutely right about what to do on how to cover pieces of furniture and have them last through many metamorphoses. So this one certainly has done that. The room is ensconced in this wallpaper that I call it Esme. It's one of my designs, and it's a pretty classic medallion, but instead of having paint, I think it gives the walls some texture, and there's so much warmth in this room that it plays a big role in that. So I like to go flea market shopping, and I found this painting. It was $300. I mean, the frame itself is worth 3 times that, but it did have a little nick, and I just painted over the woman's fan that she has there, and I love having portraits in my house. So this, it's a wheel chandelier, and I wanted something rustic for this room. It did not come with its own chandelier, so we needed something, and There were so many chandeliers in this house. We didn't need anything fancy again, but we did need something with heft. This is from Shades of Light, which is a local lighting company, but they sell everywhere. And it comes in different sizes, and it adds that rustic touch. One of the things I absolutely love about this room is this rhinoceros painting, print. But I think a decorator said, you don't want that there, but I love this hefty monster of an animal in this room. I think it sets the tone in this room. So now we're in the kitchen. It is a big kitchen, and it was a big kitchen when we bought the house. The prior owners were foodies, I think, and really did a lot to the kitchen, and we changed some things, switched out their island. We kept their fancy restaurant-style oven, which works beautifully. We also inherited a wok, which we are still learning how to use, but it's a nice, you can't get rid of it, that's the problem. But so sometimes we'll have parties we'll have a wok party. I did put in this tile, which is, I think you can get it at Floor & Decor, and unfortunately I saw it in a lot of places after I chose it, but I still love it. I like the black and the white, and I love a white kitchen. This is a little platter I painted, which I like with the black and white. So I hung it. So when we got the house, there was another cabinet right here. There's cabinets all over. So I have so much storage, it's not funny. But we got rid of the cabinet because it just was sort of in our face. We wanted to make the room more open. Like I said, I love openness and loft-like living. And this, I think I got it at Restoration Hardware. I'm not sure if they still have them, but, and I did start collecting brown and white transferware. It's hard to find, especially, the pretty stuff. So I would joke that I had 2 pieces and I couldn't find any more, but I love the brown and the white. And another really important feature of this room is the Roman shades, and you can see wallpaper. It is in a pattern called Fig Leaf, I believe, by Peter Dunham, and it is classic. You see it in a lot of houses. I don't think I ever don't like it in a house. It's just so stunning and calming and authentic, I think is a word for it. So I definitely made a splurge, and Sarah Hillary had these beautiful Roman shades made. You can see here that we've got a wall of cabinets and a little space for eating. And what I love is a fireplace in the kitchen, which we use a lot in the winter, especially, obviously. But it really does warm this rather large lab-like kitchen. It's beautiful when the fireplace is on. Again, my mother's harvest table, a farmer's, she had it in all of her houses, and what's unusual about it is it's very thin. Usually you'll have a harvest table and it's that, and it's so slender and graceful. I love this table from her house. Over the fireplace is a portrait of my grandmother by my great-grandfather. So Charles Dana Gibson painted a portrait of his daughter-in-law, and her name was Parthenia Gibson. This was in my grandparents' dining room, and I always loved it. I love the purple, soft purple, and the dress that she's wearing, her green arms, which maybe it needs to be clean, but I love her green arms. So my mother was a wonderful artist, but she also had a beautifully appointed house. So I grew up in a house very similar to this one. In fact, the layout is almost identical. I was exposed very early on to beautiful rooms. When I went to college, I didn't think art was gonna get me anywhere, that I'd be poor, and I didn't want to be poor. So I was more practical and got degrees in English and went to grad school. And but in the summers when I was teaching high school English, I would take ceramic lessons, and I just was in my element. That's how I began to make home products. I started with a set of dinnerware, moved on to beautiful sculpted soup tureens, and it was so different than a lot of other people that were working in pottery. You know, I was pretty successful getting it into stores. Flash forward 10, 15 years, I'm moving from ceramics to two-dimensional design or surface design, and that's been so much fun. I definitely want people to feel welcome when they step into my home. It is a very grand house, and that makes it unusual, but it's also fun and lively, and has a lot of humorous touches, like in the art. We've got some nudes, and we've got some whirligigs and some folk art, and so it's high-low. The best compliment somebody could give me about our home is that they feel comfortable here. They feel like they are being entertained a little bit, that it's an experience that makes them feel like they're walking into something new and different, and that they're gonna have fun. So this is the porch my husband added on, or re-added on together. We were going to screen it in, but we enjoyed it so much being open, and the breeze, and it's harder to keep clean, but maybe one day we'll screen it in. But so far it's been really very delightful. My idea for doing this space was sort of have it look like it was old furniture collected, you know, old wicker furniture that was maybe in an attic on a main porch or something. I love this. This is I found it on the side of the road, didn't cost me anything, and I have this cushion made for it, and it's very comfortable. And that's the fabric on the chairs is my design. It's kind of like that chartreuse design that was in our living room, but it's in blue and white. Yeah, I love lamps on a porch. That's one of my favorite things, because at night it just warms it all up, and yeah, I love that too. This is a nostalgic piece. It's a table that my grandmother had, the woman who was just in the portrait in the kitchen. She had this on her front porch, and all the cousins would sit around it and eat tater tots, and I loved it. She'd always have a nice geranium in that little special place there. So I definitely have taken this piece from house to house. So this is our dining room, and this room probably needed the most work when we moved in. The ceilings, they were coffered back then, but they were completely falling off the ceiling. So my husband redid the coffering on the ceiling, and I decided to paint it pink because my aunt said pink's very flattering in the candlelight, so I think that was the idea to make this a cozy dining space. I'm very casual. I don't pull out. I don't have a lot of placemats or tablecloths. So it's pretty basic whenever I'm going to have people over, and usually we'll have 6 or 7 people around this table. What I did for today was just I pulled out some family silver, and these I think I got from Target many, many years ago. These are Juliska, which I love, a simple Juliska plate. And I love color, and I can think that reflects pretty clearly here that we're using the same colors I'm always drawn to, which is orange, pink, green, blue. I like brown too, chartreuse. Every color just makes my heart really happy when I see a good color. These are Moroccan glasses. I've got about a dozen, and sometimes they're not expensive, but the colors are jewel-like and beautiful. And sometimes I'll just put some flowers in them when somebody's sick. They're just great gifts to give somebody. So when I was trying to figure out what kind of pattern or fabric I wanted for the room, it took me a while, but again, like ticking, buffalo check is just a classic. So, and I love brown. I think brown goes very well with pops of color. These have what I asked the seamstress to do ballet ties on them and make it like a skirt, so they're very flirty. I did get these chairs specifically for this room. They are Swedish, Scandinavian, classic or traditional chairs. Don't look too close because it is slanting a little bit. This was in my grandmother's, Parthenia's, dining room, and that's where all the drinks were. And I guess I was this little looking up, and I thought it was really high, but the Dubonnet and the bourbon and all the sugary mixers that you put in drinks, that's what they did on a Sunday afternoon. So it means a lot to me to have this butler's tray, and it's really old. It does need some work, and we'll get it done at some point. This clock is from Kim Faison, and I needed something to fill the corners in the room. In fact, we bought it and put it immediately over in this corner right here, but I'm doing some changing to a few rooms up there. This Chinese screen we just pulled down, and I think it works wonderfully in this room. Initially, I painted this room green, as you might have guessed, but so the Chinese screen was supposed to go in the room. It didn't work, so I took it up to a bedroom, and now it's back down because we've painted the walls white. Another thing that we did to this room was we put the wainscoting in. I like it a little high. It does make it harder to place art because you can't really put it very naturally on it, although this is kind of working, I think. Over here, I guess I was going with this Scandinavian Swedish thing, so I have my fake ancestors in oval portraits that I did just to, it's stage setting. So I think they add to it. Her face I've had to paint a few times because she's now looks like she has a tan. But anyway, so they're not authentic, they're not real, they're just me doing what I do, which is decorative arts. This room is the guest bedroom, and I think it turned out well. This room has beautiful light, but it needed some coziness, so this pattern is called Verger, and it's based on Belgian tapestries. There's a very popular, very beautiful one by Scalamandre, but mine's a little different, and so I think it worked well for this room. We got the bed on Craigslist and had it painted this green again, which is starting to sound monochromatic, but I think sometimes you need a color to thread through your house to tie the parts of the different parts together. So it was a natural choice. The lamp is one of mine, and it's called it's a pattern. It's a small pattern called Beaufont, and it's been a really popular pattern for me. The chairs I just bought at a local store, and they fit in this blue and white and green theme. These curtains just linen, but this, I really love the trimming here is called Guadalupe, and it's available through Stroheim. I did a collection for them a few years ago. They're still selling some patterns. They're definitely selling all the trim. And this is actually a reproduction of one of our favorite portraits our great-grandfather did, Charles Dana Gibson. The real portrait's about twice that size, and it's got a lot of crackling because they digitized it right in the beginning of digitizing. It was like 25 years ago. So it's not held up, but I think it looks great in this room and gives it some elegance. And the room opens up to a sort of study, and again, the webbing on the windows is part of the charm and beauty of this house. All the glass in the house, if you look at it, is still wavy. I mean, I think 1 or 2 panes have been replaced, but that's another reason why we really like this house. I've discovered this Taylor's linens, and the sheets are so crisp, and what I like to say is you can hear them fold. They're just crackly and beautiful, and they wear so well. So I just have simple lace trimmed pillowcases. This, I think, was Matuk, and I got it off of 1 Kings Lane. Well, home is really the place where your family spends time together. We bought this house a year before COVID hit, and my boys came back from college, and it was wonderful because we all had space. But I think that's the most important thing about a house, is that it holds not only the things that you love, but the people you love.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Carly. Welcome to my West Village apartment. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Carly Beck, I'm an artist, and we're in the West Village. This is a railroad apartment, and I've lived here for 17 years, and the building was built in 1890. Originally, when I bought this apartment, it was pretty much a white box. The kitchen had indoor-outdoor carpeting, old appliances. All the details that are originally here have been stripped out of the apartment. So I, over the last 17 years, have been adding back in the details with wood trimming, crown molding, medallions around the light fixtures, just trying to make it look like it was bringing those elements of the past back in. So when I came to New York, I originally lived on the east side of Manhattan and then worked for Diane von Furstenberg, and she was on the west side of Manhattan. I really wanted to find a special place in the West Village. So I looked around with a couple of friends and found this space, and not many people want to live in a 5th floor walk-up, but I didn't mind it. I still don't mind it. And I kind of think of this place like a little nest on top of this building with like a tree-lined street. So originally, this room was painted schoolhouse white, Pharaoh and Ball, for years, and it just never seemed warm or cozy, and this is where I work. So I paint over at the table over there, and I just needed it to be more vibrant. So I did this collection with the Carlisle Hotel. This wallpaper is paying homage to the gallery room at the Carlisle Hotel, and I thought with all of these colors, and I love flowers, but it's still kind of muted in a way. It's a darker floral, not as many. A lot of my florals are brighter, so I thought that this would really set the mood for this room, and it has. It's totally changed the apartment, because before it didn't seem like, with a railroad, it's hard to design and make something look like separate rooms because it's just basically one long hallway. And adding the wallpaper element in, it adds this dimension that creates a separation from the kitchen and the bedroom. The kitchen originally had blue outdoor-indoor carpeting situation, a big white refrigerator right here blocking the light, an old stove. The cabinets were really like short and didn't make any sense because you can get a lot of storage out of this space. So I added in the cabinets that are a lot taller, that go basically up to the ceiling. I did everything kind of like I wanted to look like furniture. I have the dishwasher here hidden underneath this panel. I did the refrigerator drawers and then a larger refrigerator there, and then the mini stove. So everything is more compact and it gives me like a lot of counter space. Then I added in the stained glass window to give privacy, and it just like brings in the most beautiful light. I created the stained glass piece with an artist in Kansas, and I wanted it to take the colors from the wallpaper but also have a very organic element to it. So the spider works to add a little bit of sparkle because the spider's body is beveled, and it just gives it an organic look to it to match the floral wallpaper. I chose 2 different shades of green for the kitchen. For the cabinets, I did breakfast room green, and then for the walls, I did whirly-bird, but they're like in the same tones. And I wanted green because I wanted this kitchen to feel like a garden, not really like a kitchen, more like a garden space. And then I put in these custom shelves here to add more storage, and it doesn't block the light. So it's a good way to get more storage in and have the light still shine through, so it wasn't so dark in the kitchen. Another design element is I took one of my wallpaper prints and wallpapered inside this cabinet just to add a little more touch of a garden element with the floral motif. And it just makes me like really happy whenever I open this up, and I wanted it to feel like it had always been there. The little animal cups here are from Hadley in Louisville, Kentucky, and we had these when I was growing up, and I just love how sweet they are. And then this little mouse holding the cheese is super special to me because I do a lot of work for Kitchen Mouse in Los Angeles. It's a vegan restaurant. It's absolutely incredible. And they have this particular mouse in their shop. Getting rid of the huge old refrigerator was my favorite thing about the kitchen, because I can get a ton of space. This is the freezer, this is another refrigerator door, this is another refrigerated space, and I actually have more room than I did before with the larger refrigerator, and a ton more counter space. I did wide plank wood flooring throughout the rest of the apartment, and this particular space, because it's such an old building, everything is shifting all the time, so I did a laminate that looks like the metal from the original metal door. So you're just taking that element of the shine here and putting it on the floor. For the backsplash, I did like a typical New York subway tile, but it's a little different. I did a darker grout, and they have kind of like a more like glossy handmade quality to them that adds it's a simple, clean element that also looks very much New York City. My mom, on a recent trip to New York, we went to the new designed Tiffany's, and Breakfast at Tiffany's is one of my favorite movies, and she surprised me by picking up these little espresso cups, which I absolutely love. The bathroom is the smallest room in the apartment. I added this wallpaper print that I did called Anne's Garden, and I painted the ceiling fruitful. It's from the Liberty collection of Farrell and Ball. Added the ceiling medallion. I added in the wainscoting to add a more textural element, so it just felt like a little bit more of a dressed up room. This painting is one of my Beauty Junkie series where I profile different beauty products in a medicine cabinet. It's just like a series that I do for different companies, and I love having it here in the bathroom as I'm getting ready. I originally majored in political science and Spanish and worked on Capitol Hill for a few years, and then decided that my heart was really in design. So I moved to New York City and went to FIT and started interning for designers that I just completely coveted. And it was a completely different time in fashion where there were so many more contemporary designers, and you could just go learn from them, which was incredible. And then I started working for Diane von Furstenberg for many years, and then other fashion houses, and started my own handbag company that I produced in New York and then Los Angeles. And then in 2016, my grandmother was an artist, and I've always loved to draw and, I don't know, go to museums, and I just felt like this need to start painting. So I got to paint by numbers and learned how to kind of see color and paint from there. And then I had all this leftover paint and I decided to use that paint and keep painting, and I've painted every day since. My work are based around pets, and I largely do pet portrait commissions. I do acrylic on canvas with some gouache, and I like to use lots of color. My pets are wearing clothes, they're in interesting places, they're shopping at Bergdorf's, they're drinking martinis at Bemelman's, or they're in LA, at the beach surfing. It's just, I get to travel the world through these pets. So this was the first painting I did after the paint by numbers, and it is my very ancient 16-year-old cat, Addie, who is truly my muse. Any project that I do, I usually pop her in somewhere. I did a children's book called The Lost Bells of Lexington, and she is one of the main characters as Mrs. Small. She's in the wallpaper print called The Upper East Side that I did for the Carlisle Hotel. She's just kind of like my little good luck charm. Let's go into my living room. First of all, I always do kind of a large floral arrangement here to create a division between the kitchen and the living room. And then you walk into the space here. I have a seating area and then my workstation. I added in these bookshelves and painted them black to create more dimension, and it's a nice contrast with the wallpaper. And then I use this as more storage. It's a desk that folds down. I did the calendar for 2022 for the Carlisle Hotel, and the September image was a bulldog drinking a glass of tea in the gallery room at the Carlisle. Behind the bulldog was a deconstructed floral print from the gallery room, and I took that image and then blew up the idea of it and created this wallpaper print. So this stripe motif is in the gallery room at the Carlisle, and then the flowers are either in vases or in a different format. So I took everything out of the vase and kind of threw it in this weird pattern and created this wallpaper with Wall Shop. Everything in this apartment is collected throughout travels or childhood memories. Everything is like super special to me. This printed lampshade I got in Louisville, Kentucky, where my aunt lives. These Staffordshire dogs are from Kansas, where I grew up. This is one of the paintings that I did for the Carlisle Hotel for the calendar, and it's dogs and cats celebrating their Tony Award win and Cafe Carlisle. As you do. This painting I got in Kansas. I love the stormy skies, the darkness of it. It's kind of a haunted image on top of like all the sweet. It's like a little surprise element. The main reason why I really wanted this apartment is just because it had such an amazing energy to it. I mean, I loved all the windows and how quiet it is. And it feels like you're not in the city when you're actually in the heart of the city. So this is Addie. She's my 16-year-old cat, and she goes everywhere with me. Addie is from Kansas, where I grew up, and my mom found this litter of kittens, and she had a tuxedo cat brother, and then Addie, and then another sister, and I just said, you have to go get the whole litter, Mom, rescue them, because there's just something so special about these cats. Addie has a lot of health issues, and she's really like put me on a total journey with her health journey, and we're just happy that she's alive. So this is my main living space, which is not very big, but I wanted the furniture to be somewhat petite, so you were not really thinking about the furniture. It was just kind of like a secondary element, and adding in lots of like pattern and texture. I have kind of like a denim fabric here on these chairs with a bamboo print, very open, so it kind of goes back to the garden theme. This large ottoman that I use as kind of like a dining room table. The sofa from the John Daring collection I love in a velvet with the velvet pillows, and then I have other like more embellished pillows stacked beneath to show like a little element of like vintage textiles and shine. And the rug is just super neutral because I didn't want it to really take away from the wallpaper. Added in more like metallic shine with the mirror and the vintage bird cage, and the metal table here with the bamboo print that goes back to the to the chairs. So everything kind of like makes sense in its own way, and it's like it's so all over the place. It just makes sense. I don't know how, but to me it just seems like it's all meant to go together. If I could change one thing about this living room, I would definitely make it bigger. I often fantasize about knocking out this wall and taking over the space, even though there's a brick wall right there. I just would like to have a little bit more room, but the wallpaper has added a dimension to the room that made it feel bigger, and that's something the paint never did. So what I do to have fun in New York is I love to go on walks. I walk for at least like an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, depending when I finish my work for the day or I'm taking a break from the work. I like to walk up to Central Park, or I like to walk on the West Side Highway. And then it's the most rewarding thing to come back in here because it's quiet and it feels like I'm bringing elements of the outside back into the apartment, but in a way that it's very calming. One terrible story while decorating this place, and another reason why I added the wood beams in, is when they were adding a roof deck on top of this building. Gorgeous, it looks incredible, but during that process, my ceiling caved in. I kind of had to rethink things. Luckily, they rebuilt the ceiling, but it never looked quite right again. It was a little wavy, so I added the beams in to add to the old world charm of it. And here's my workspace. It's an old farm table that has tons of paint all over it. I have paintings I'm working on here, additional canvases, more canvas storage here. This is where I keep all my paints, my brushes. I always like to have a movie on or something that inspires me, whether the volume's up or down. It's just nice to have a TV right there. And I work pretty much exclusively right here. So what inspires me, like not only like other artists, but also fashion designers. Like Marc Jacobs is one of my favorite designers, and I'm also very inspired by textiles, and I love film. So I kind of take all of those elements, like my love of fashion, my love of textiles, my love of film, and add it into my works. So this is one of my works that is acrylic on canvas, and I like to feature lots of different animals in New York City scenes. This is Pillow Cat Books on the Lower East Side, one of my favorite children's bookstores, and they have lots of like vintage books. And then when I do a piece on paper, these are just like little 9x12s on paper, all inspired by the Carlisle Hotel. And then I also like to do wood box dioramas. So one of my favorite paintings, or that I'm most proud of, is I really love this black and white with the bunnies being in color, because I am from Kansas and I am super inspired by the Wizard of Oz. And it's, I like this very moody Gothic scene, and then these bright, happy animals. Working in art in New York City is, I feel like, the best place to work, because it's such a supportive community and you're just inspired by absolutely everything constantly all around you. And you're never like, there's never not inspiration. I think the hardest part of it though is that it is a very isolating job. And that's why walking and meeting up with friends is so nice, because you can just get stuck in your own environment, wrapped up in the work, and kind of ignore the outside world. And it's nice to be in the city because the city offers so much, and it's a nice break from the work. The farm table is from Kansas, which is nice because it is mostly like very farm inspired, everything there. And it's an element of home that I get to work with every day. I go back and forth a lot to my parents' house in Kansas, and I find a lot of inspiration there as well, because everything is pretty flat, simple, it's calm, and I like to also do larger works there that have a lot more characters, because I think that atmosphere of being so calm on the prairie really like aids in creating larger works. My favorite room in the house is this room, the living room, because this is where I paint, this is where like I read. I love this room. It's such a cozy environment and so inspiring for my work. This is my bedroom, which is similar to the kitchen because it's color drenched, and this color is Hazy by Farrell and Ball. And I absolutely love it because it plays so well with other pastel colors, and it's super calming. I didn't initially have this room color drenched. I had painted these were black before. This room has probably been, I don't know, like 30 different colors. I've never really like settled on anything. And I just thought, well, what if I paint the ceiling, the moldings, everything the same color? And I absolutely love it. I can't ever foresee changing it. I mean, I can't say forever. Sometimes I want to do pink, but I think it's going to stay this color. These are 2 interior paintings that I did for my friend's store in Brooklyn called Collier's Mansion. And we made them into trays. I framed the originals in these antique gold frames. Inspiration for interior paintings come from everywhere. Like, I'm constantly taking photos and getting ideas, and then I love to just pair colors together that might not necessarily go together, using a really bright background and then muting down the furniture, doing like an animal print here. Of course, there's Addie in different like versions of Addie right here and right there, and it all just kind of works. I always like to do like a large scale mini portrait within a portrait, showing the outside world with like trees and lots of books. And I just like creating these because they're little mini worlds. In this room, I've done mirrored furniture because I wanted it to feel very delicate and feminine. And then I have these antique sconces and antique little sketchings from my grandparents. And then to make it look more modern, I did a neon candle. I have these different picture frames here to add more elements of shine and color. And this is my first painting that I ever did with my paint by numbers paint. So it's a nice little reminder of where I started with, of course, my favorite cat, and then another organic element with the butterflies. And I just think that this is like a really sweet vignette here with the sconces and the floral butterfly lamp. Everything just kind of makes sense. Originally, I had built-in bookcases here that never really actually made sense because it took so much space from the bedroom, which is a nice size for the West Village, but it's not huge. And I wanted a window seat for Addie or for me to sit in and just to create some more dimension. I love these old windows and the fire escape and the trees, so it's nice to sit here. And then there's the radiator there, so you can't really do much, but I love how this works out as more of a usable space than it did before. This is another one of my favorite paintings. It's Breakfast at Tiffany's. I love the cat with her little croissant and her cup of coffee, and a velvet headboard that I love velvet, and it's so easy to have with pets. This is a throw of the Upper East Side print that I developed for the Carlisle Hotel, and I just love the bright colors and the imagery here of the hotel and 76th Street and the Upper East Side. So this is like, it's really nice to pair back with the zebra carpet. And then over here, more mirrored pieces for storage. Here's an antique lamp from my grandparents. I love the crystals. It like brings the most beautiful light in the afternoon. Here's more little antique lamps here. I just love to source things all over the country. Going to antique shops is one of my favorite things to do. Not only inspiration for the paintings, but just bringing little things back to the home. My favorite thing about the West Village is first the architecture, and next is just the community. It's such a supportive community. It feels like you're actually in a small town, even though you're in the heart of the big city. Designing a home with a pet in mind is not easy because, one, they can be like a little hard on furniture, and two, you don't want to like have a litter box out in the middle of the apartment. So I have the litter box hidden between the window and the refrigerator in the kitchen. She has a kitty water fountain over there, but I'm just like super mindful of the textiles. Cats don't usually like to scratch velvet, so I have the velvet couch, I have the velvet headboard, and it just makes it a little bit more pet friendly. Home means to me color, pattern, and warmth. Any room that has I love color drenching, I love wallpapers, anything that creates a very cozy environment is a home to me.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Nadia Watts, and welcome to my home in Denver, Colorado. I can't wait to show you around. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Nadia Watts, and I'm an interior designer. Right now, we're sitting in my living room in Denver, Colorado, in a English Tudor-style home that was built in the early 1940s. We chose this home knowing that we could grow into it with a young family and the wonderful charm and character that it had as a place for me to explore different design ideas over the years. In my home, my living room is the favorite room that we're sitting in right now because it is a very long and wide room. It has different seating areas and can almost be seen as 3 or 4 different rooms. We gather in here, we play puzzles, we read books. I will do artwork for products and projects that I'm working on. And it just has that sense when you come in, it's bright and joyful and happy. Welcome to my living room. I'd love to show you around. There's many things for us to explore and look at. Here we have kind of my foyer table, and I have this beautiful hall table that I found at a local kind of antique vintage store. And I've paired it with these contemporary cartel lamps and cartel stools. I love the juxtaposition of the smoothness of the stools against the lines of the table and other straight lines here. Also on the table, I have a beautiful kind of chalk drawing that was a friend of my grandmother's that I love the abstract element in there. On the table, we have a few pieces from the lacquer company. I love the two-tone color of this tray. It brings a little bit of interest. We'll see another one in another color in the other room. And then this amazing etching that is has gold and all of the colors that you're going to see in this space. It's a piece that I was drawn to and originally had it in a different room in the house. And then as this table kind of came together over the years, this is exactly where it needed to be. Here we have 3 glass blown shirt collars that my uncle Rodman Miller had blown originally for the Neiman Marcus in Seattle, where you would hang necklaces on them. And I love just the shape. There's a little bit of the organicness of his touch. And I just love how it creates a little bit more interest here. Then, another piece of glass, we have here just a twisted knot that I found on Cherish. And then a variety of books. I love my home books, and they're kind of all over the place that you see. If you pan down to this rug, this is from Furbish, a store that's in North Carolina. And this, I love the length of it. I love the bold and brightness in it. This was a purchase I did 5 years ago, kind of when we were all purchasing online. Here behind me, I have one of a pair of wing chairs that I covered in a fabric from my gem collection with Cravat. This fabric is a woven textile. It has a nice thick feel to it, and I love how the lines and curvature of the chair kind of in comparison with how thick a texture that the fabric has. And this fabric is from the Gem Collection, a line that I designed with Cravat. I also used a little accent of velvet here. I love using velvet in places to just add a sense of texture that you want to touch. And then I also threw on the back of it kind of more of a persimmon tangerine color that it pulls from the depth of the fabric. As we walk around, we're going to come to the sitting area, kind of the main focal point around the fireplace of the living room. This living room has changed in how I've set up the layout. Right now we have it kind of with kind of an open, you come in, the dining room is behind us, and you come into this space being able to easily sit down. This is my seat right here all the time. And the other thing that we've done is I've had the round table that you'll see in a minute in the middle as kind of more of a puzzle work at table. So I've loved how this living room kind of changes as our family changes. And I think right now I'm most happy with this layout. The colors in this seating arrangement all originally came from this Lee Joffa Kelly Wersler fabric that I fell in love with. I pulled it and it literally sat on my desk for, I would say a good year or so, because I needed to pair it with a rug. And it took me a while to find this rug. This is also a Lee Joffa rug, but I didn't find it. I found it when I was at the D&D in New York, and I just love what these chairs do to the space. And then I threw these pillows in here. Again, a little bit of velvet and texture. I always want everyone to feel like they can touch stuff when they're here in my house. And these are Victoria and Adam, a company that is out of the UK. And you'll see I have a few of those around the house. I love the traditional lines of these chairs, but then a more contemporary fabric. Then as we kind of move beyond, this is an Asian chest. You'll see a few Asian antiques in the house that I had purchased from an antique dealer that was here in Denver, who would import objects, and before they would come to the States, they would be refinished. So you have this wonderful kind of depth of color within the wood pieces. We also have another piece by my uncle, a vase. And then here above the mantle, I have a piece by Stephen Batura, who is an artist here that is, I saw this piece during a photo shoot working, and I had to have it. I love the colors within it. It reminds me of something like blue and white china, but then the warmthness as well. It just it's very intriguing. We've got it at a great time of day with a little bit of light shining on it. Ceramic vases that are hand glazed on the mantle, I recently purchased on a buying trip to Paris. I packed them all in my luggage to get here safely, and I love the curved lines against the straight. Again, that kind of yin and yang of different lines and shapes. Then we have this low French settee with a wood frame. I love that the height stays low in the living room here, and I've paired it with a boucle, a navy boucle, part of the gem collection with cravat, and these beautiful alpaca felted pillows by J.G. Switzer that I found at Jinho in New York at 200 Lexington. So I love, again, playing with the different textures and the different colors. Then we come around here. This is the main window that kind of faces the front of the house. And I have this beautiful round table. It's great to pull up a chair to, read a book, look at. And the evening, I love having this lamp on. It is Christopher Spitzmiller for visual comfort. Here is the other wing chair. We saw the first one in by the foyer table. This is the same material fabric from the gem collection with cravat, but it is more of this beautiful kind of blue. You have a lot of different movement within the colors in it. On this wall, we have two paintings by Stacey McCormick, who is a London artist. I met her while on a Design Leadership Network summit event, and met her during an evening gathering, and went out to see her studio and loved these pieces, had them sent here. You'll see two more in my primary bedroom, but I love just the interest and colors and the texture of them. Then as we come around, I love blue and white, so we have some big overscale ginger jars below the table, and then on top of the table are a few things, that just, I love the Lacquer Company trays again. This is a round version with two-toned, kind of this wonderful deep eggplant. Here we have a Tiffany Studios piece. It's a round pedestal tray that's part of a desk set. This is a desk set design that was my grandmother's. I found this piece at Lilly in Nassau and love that it just brings a little interest. It's part of the abalone collection where you have these little pieces of abalone inlay. Then as you come around, I love a large plant. This one got a little bit out of control. I've tamed it slightly, but I know it needs a little bit of work here. We have kind of a game table / writing table that's from Bunny Williams that I've had my eye on for many years. We're exiting the living room now and we're going to be going into the dining room. Welcome to my dining room. I love how it transitions from the living room into the dining room. We've gone a lot darker on the walls with Hail Navy by Benjamin Moore. I love just the coziness it creates. Then the other piece that I find very important into this room is a round table. I love having a round table in a dining room because you can always squeeze one more person in. It makes the conversation for the group a little easier. And I brought the size down a little bit smaller. We used to have a much longer and big dining room table to make sure everyone could fit for gatherings. But now I like this more intimate space. This is one of my favorite corners in the dining room. I have this beautiful piece of artwork by William Lovelace that I found at the Michael Warren Contemporary Gallery here in Denver. And it sits above this antique game table that you fold the top over and kind of flip it around. And then these beautiful kind of very smooth ceramic pieces that kind of create a lot of interest. Again, kind of balancing that yin and yang. What is so amazing with this piece of art is this is ink and glue. And so when we get up close to it, you'll be able to see kind of the depth and interest there. And I love how it pops against the dark wall. We have a stool, and then as we come around here we have a beautiful piece by a friend, Scott Parker, called The Hatch, which it's a river with little flies coming off of it. Again, the color within the piece against the dark walls, I love how it pops off of it. So here we have a hall table that I use for just extra pieces when we need it, when we're serving at the dining room table, with these beautiful crystal and gilt sconces with a bird above them, which I just love the femininity of those in the space, then paired with this carved gold mirror with very interesting leaves kind of motif around the edges. Here I also have on display some pieces of glass by Tiffany Studios, which is the inspiration for the fabric collection that I did with Kravitt called the Gem Collection. And these are pieces of glass that were pressed glass from Tiffany Studios when it closed. And there is a collection in New York called the Newstead Collection, and they have over 250,000 pieces of this glass. And what's so amazing is that the colors, these are over 100 years old, but all of these colors within here are relevant to today because nature was their inspiration. So here we have on this chair, one of the fabrics. This is a cut velvet, and so it's wonderful two-tone, kind of the highs and lows of it. It gives a great feeling there, sitting next to the glass right here. So again, I love when people come over, they're able to look at things, they want to touch them. Everyone's free to touch anything when they come in the house, and just creates a lot of conversation points and interest. With the round dining room table, I loved pairing our oval back chairs. And this is the third time that I've recovered these chairs over the 15 years. I've recovered these chairs in this Clark & Clark fabric. It's a wonderful rich teal. It adds such an elegance. Prior times I've had multiple colors on the chairs or a few different, but for this time I really wanted just the shape and the color to stand out. Having self-welting and a double welt on all of the chairs. And this chair is able to move between the rooms. It can be in the dining room. You saw one in the living room. And I love the oval back with the round table. Again, it adds that nice curve and line against everything else that you see that is straight. Our family loves nature, and as a centerpiece for this table is this beautiful large amethyst rock that we purchased during a show here in Denver. I actually had sent my parents and husband to take a look around while I was working, and they sent images of this back with little bottles for scale, and it is just a wonderful piece here kind of as a center part of the room. And above it hangs this chandelier that I found at a lighting store here in Denver. It's very, very formal and ornate, and I love how it compares with the amethyst, with the pieces of art, and again, just that eclectic feel to the home. Since a young age, I knew I was going to be in something incorporated the arts. I learned that it was going to be interior design after doing an internship with a designer in Roanoke, Virginia, Elaine Stevenson Interiors. And within 2 days, I knew that interior design specifically was the rest of my life. I knew at a young age that I would have my own business and what I pursued. And I came home to my parents, this was during college, and said, this is the rest of my life. I'm gonna be an interior designer and have a business one day. And they, we all chuckled a little bit at the dining room table because it's something that was always a part of my life, and I was always surrounded by it. My parents designed and built the houses that we lived in, which was only 2. So it was very, very specific and very thoughtful design. And we were always looking. There was always the search and observing and taking in the beauty and the things that you saw around you. If that was going to the National Gallery and Smithsonian museums on the weekends with my mother. I grew up outside of Alexandria, Virginia, and we would go to the Smithsonian's and the National Gallery at least 3 of the 4 weekends in a month. And then spending a lot of time in New York with my grandmother, going to the Met and the Guggenheim and the MoMA. Art was something that was very imprinted in me. Also being the great-great-granddaughter of Louis Comfort Tiffany, that is something that's seen through me in the work that I do and the rooms that I design, especially in my own home. Welcome to my bedroom. I'd love to show you some details and some bold colors that I brought in from some of the other rooms into this space. I want to first talk about the wall color. This is a very, very pale blush that changes as the day goes on. And because this window is west facing, we get amazing sunlight here in Colorado. So as the day goes on, this room brightens up, which I love. The main focal point of this space is definitely this headboard that is very tall that I designed with a curve and then upholstered in a really yummy striate velvet that again is from a Lee Joffe. So there's a few things you've seen throughout the house from Lee Joffe. And I designed it this way because being a house from the 1940s, when people had twin beds, there was a window in the center of this wall that I wanted to get rid of. Now the bed's there and it's much more grounding for us when we sleep. On the bed, I've used a few different pieces from John Robshaw's collection. I love the cotton. I love how it wears. I love to sleep under it. And so the coverlet and the blanket at the end of the bed. For the bedding, what I've done is I've used a few pieces from John Robshaw. I love the cotton and the feel and the weight to sleep under. We have a coverlet here and then also the quilt that's at the end of the bed. I've paired the John Robshaw bedding with one of the fabrics from my gem collection with Cravat, where it almost looks like little prisms of glass. You've seen kind of as the pieces of glass I've had displayed in other parts of the house, just the variation that you see within it. So I have that here, and then again, another one of those velvet and embroidered pillows, Victoria Adam, that I love the texture it adds. This is my side of the bed. I always like sleeping on this side. Here we have another pair of Stacey McCormick pieces of art. Again, I love the vibrancy, the colors, the color combination, and the movements. And it was a perfect pairing in this space to add the pink and the yellow, but then still have those rich teals and blues. And they're my favorite. I wish I spent more time in here awake to stare at these. On my nightstands, this is painted in a lacquer finish that I chose, paired with a visual comfort lamps. I love they kind of are more of a reading lamp and a soft light at night. And, my glasses and some flowers, another collar that my uncle made, another piece from the Tiffany Studios desk set, and then this wonderful brass rabbit that was my mother's as a child that I just always played with, that now lives here next to my side of the bed. Now we'll head over to my husband's side of the bed, and we have this beautiful large photograph by Brown Cannon, a close family friend, and these are waves that he then colorized the photography, and it's just a gorgeous, wonderful thing to look at, especially in our bedroom. And his side, he keeps pretty straight, just a few things before bed. And then again, because of the size of the room, I like the symmetry of the lamps, the symmetry of the art, but then picking up on a few kind of more personal pieces on the wall. So here at the end of the bed, we have this upholstered bench in a G.P.J. Baker fabric. I love that it brings in all of the colors of the space. And then the rug in this room is a custom Brunswick and Fee rug with kind of two tones of blue, and it has an interesting knot to it with a little bit of variation when you get close. I grew up horseback riding, and I blew up a photograph that I took of my horse next to my side of the bed. It's a nice memento. Then we have this sketch of a horse by Ted Waddell, who is an artist that exhibits with Vision West Gallery here in Colorado. My overall design style for my own personal home is eclectic. I love bringing in different cultures and pieces from all over the world. I was brought up that way in my family and in my surroundings that I was used to. And then also bringing in color and bringing in that amazing sense of joy and cheerfulness into the house. So you'll see lots of bright colors, interesting color combinations. Art is very important to me because it was how I was raised and what I was surrounded by my whole life. It's definitely, art is my first language. Now we're gonna go on to my daughter's room. Welcome to my daughter's room. I love this room. I love the jungle mural that we have put around on all of the walls. It just envelops the space. Because the rooms are a great size for 2 twin beds, we put 2 twin beds in here with a ticking stripe in an interesting shape for the headboards. And then for the bedding, she has a little bit of the John Robshaw, just the nice cotton coverlet, and then this Designer's Guild silk that's 2-tone. So you'll see on the Euros and on the blankets, just the wonderful color combination. And then again, you see another embroidered with velvet and even some sequins in the Adam and Victoria pillows. Then around this side, we have this antique chest that I found here in town, the same place that I found the front hall foyer table with this beautiful mirror above it. We have a few kind of family pieces here and sentimental. This is a photograph of my great grandmother, Louise Tiffany, who was married to Louis Tiffany. And then this is one of their daughters, one of the set of twins that is my great-grandmother, Comfort. And they're standing at the 72nd Street Tiffany Mansion in front of a mantle, and my daughter's middle name is Comfort, and so this was an important kind of memento to have here. And then some pieces that I grew up having on my chest as well. We again have another just cartel stool floating around here. This is more of a wonderful kind of blush pink color. I used a West Elm rug in this room, just a flat woven weave. It's great and durable for kids. She's had this one for a long time. And I love the interest, the curiosity, the imagination that this room takes. Another thing that I love about this room is that as she's gotten older, she's been able to add some more personal things that she enjoys having around her. And I wouldn't be surprised if she asks for new wallpaper soon. My advice for up-and-coming interior designers is to be curious and to go out there and see as much as you can, even if it's something that you might not like. But knowing what you like and don't like and being able to verbalize that, I think is very important. And when I work with clients, that's something that I'm very attuned to. So for you to do that for yourself as an inspiring designer is very important, and ask questions. A design tip that I would love to pass along is to always use a variety of textures and materials and colors in your space. It adds a sense of complexity, and it feels like there's a thoughtfulness to the design work that you do. To me, home is bringing comfort and joy to your family and friends when they enter your house.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.